Have you ever felt like you're standing at the bottom of a mountain, looking up at a peak that seems absolutely impossible to climb? Or maybe you're facing a problem, a giant in your life that just feels too big, too strong, and too overwhelming to conquer. It could be a challenge at work, a personal struggle, a fear that holds you back. We all have our giants. And when we face them, it's so easy to feel small, weak, and completely outmatched. Well, today, I want to share one of the most powerful and enduring stories ever told about facing giants. It's a story that has echoed through thousands of years, inspiring countless people to find strength they never knew they had. I'm talking, of course, about the story of David and Goliath. Now, you might have heard it before, maybe in Sunday school or as a classic underdog tale. But I invite you to listen again, with fresh ears and an open heart. Because the moral of this story is so much more than just the little guy wins. It's a profound lesson in faith, courage, and where true strength really comes from. Let's set the scene. Imagine two massive armies poised for battle in the Valley of Elah. On one side, you have the army of Israel, and on the other, the fearsome Philistines. For 40 days, a stalemate has gripped the valley. Why? Because every morning and every evening, the Philistines send out their champion, a man who is the very definition of a giant. His name is Goliath. The ancient texts describe Goliath in terrifying detail. He was over 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze helmet and a coat of mail that weighed over 100 pounds. His spear was like a weaver's beam, with an iron point weighing 15 pounds. This wasn't just a man. He was a walking, talking war machine, a symbol of brute force and intimidation. And every day he would stride out and shout a challenge to the Israelites. "Send one man to fight me. If he wins, we will be your servants. But if I win, you will be our servants." Now put yourself in the shoes of an Israelite soldier. You see this behemoth, you hear his taunts, you feel the ground tremble as he walks. What do? The Bible tells us that the entire army, including their king Saul, was dismayed and terrified. They were paralyzed by fear. Their giant wasn't just Goliath, it was the overwhelming feeling of inadequacy, the certainty of defeat. They were looking at the problem with their own eyes, measuring it by their own strength, and concluding that it was impossible. This is where our hero enters the story, and he's the last person you'd expect. It's not a seasoned warrior or a decorated general. It's a young shepherd boy named David. David wasn't even a soldier. He was the youngest of his brothers, and his job was to tend his father's sheep. He arrives at the camp simply to bring food for his older brothers who are in the army. When David gets there, he sees the panic. He hears Goliath's defiant roar, and he's genuinely confused. He asks, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Notice his perspective. The other soldiers saw a giant they couldn't possibly fight. David saw a man who was disrespecting his God. His focus wasn't on the size of the giant, but on the greatness of his God. This different perspective is the first crucial lesson for us. When we face our giants, whether it's debt, illness, addiction, or a broken relationship, what do we focus on? Do we fixate on the size and strength of the problem, letting it fill our entire field of vision until it paralyzes us with fear? Or do we, like David, see the problem in relation to something much, much bigger? David's faith wasn't a denial of the problem. He saw how big Goliath was. He just believed his God was infinitely bigger. Naturally, everyone thought David was crazy. His own brother accused him of being arrogant. King Saul, seeing this young shepherd boy, essentially tells him, "You can't do this. You're just a boy." And he's been a warrior since his youth. Saul was looking at the situation through the lens of human logic and experience. And by that measure, he was right. It was a suicide mission. This is where we get to the heart of the story. David's response to Saul is one of the most powerful declarations of faith you'll ever read. He doesn't list his qualifications as a soldier because he has none. Instead, he shares his resume as a shepherd. He says, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Think about that. David wasn't relying on some future hoped-for miracle. He was drawing strength from his past experiences of God's faithfulness. In the lonely, unseen moments of his life, protecting sheep from predators, God had been with him. He had learned to trust God in the small battles, and that trust built a foundation of faith that was now strong enough to face a giant. This is our second lesson. Faith is not a one-time decision. It's a muscle built over time. Every small act of trust, every time we rely on God in our daily struggles, we are preparing for the bigger giants that may come our way. Don't discount the lion and bear moments in your own life. They are your training ground. So King Saul reluctantly agrees. He tries to equip David with his own armor, a heavy bronze helmet and a coat of mail. It's a logical move, right? Fight a warrior with a warrior's tools, but David can't even move in it. It's not his. And here's our third powerful lesson. You cannot fight your battle with someone else's armor. God has uniquely equipped you. Your gifts, your experiences, your faith, they are tailor-made for the challenges you face. Trying to be someone you're not, or using methods that aren't authentic to you, will only weigh you down. David had the wisdom to take off the king's armor and stick with what he knew. And what did he know? A shepherd's staff, a sling, and 5 smooth stones he picked up from a stream. That's it. To the outside world, this was laughable. A stick and some rocks against a 9-foot-tall champion in full-body armor? It's absurd. But David wasn't trusting in the stones. He was trusting in the God who would guide the stone. He used what he had, as humble as it was, and trusted God to do the rest. So David walks out into the valley. Goliath sees him and is insulted. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" he sneers. He curses David by his gods. Goliath's confidence is in his size, his strength, his armor, his spear, the visible and the material. Then David delivers his famous response, which is the very moral of the story distilled into a single speech. He says, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." The battle belongs to the Lord. That is the ultimate truth of this story. Our victory doesn't depend on our strength, our resources, or our cleverness. It depends on our willingness to place the battle in God's hands. It's about shifting our mindset from "how can I win this?" to "how will God win this through me?" And with that, David runs, not away from the giant, but towards him. He places a stone in his sling, swings it and lets it fly. The stone sinks into Goliath's forehead, and the giant falls face down on the ground. The shepherd boy, armed with faith and a single stone, had defeated the undefeatable. The story doesn't end there. When the Philistines saw their champion fall, they ran. And when the Israelites saw the Philistines run, they found their courage and chased them down, winning a decisive victory. David's act of faith didn't just save himself, it inspired an entire nation to rise up from their fear. So what does this ancient story mean for you and me today in our modern world? The moral is not to go looking for physical giants to fight with slingshots. The moral is that whatever giant you are facing, it is not bigger than your God. The story of David and Goliath teaches us to change our perspective. Stop staring at the size of your problem and start focusing on the greatness of your God. It teaches us to build our faith in the small, everyday moments, so we're ready for the big ones. Remember the lions and bears God has already helped you overcome. It teaches us to be authentic. Take off the armor that doesn't fit you and use the unique gifts and tools that God has given you, no matter how humble they may seem. And most importantly, it teaches us that the battle is the Lord's. Our role is to show up with courage, to act in faith, and to trust that the outcome is in His hands. True strength isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of fear, because your trust in God is greater than your fear of the giant. So, look at that giant in your life again. That challenge that seems impossible. Yes, it's big. Yes, it's intimidating. But you don't face it alone. You face it in the name of the Lord Almighty. Pick up your stone, whatever that simple God-given tool might be, run towards your giant, and trust that the battle is, and always will be, the Lord's. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that aims to inspire and encourage. I'd love to hear in the comments what giants you're facing and how you're choosing to trust. God bless.